keyword income to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's income to 200-200. This is the Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It is my first day back after just 3 days of vacation. It was, I have to say, in its own way, it was the most relaxing vacation I've had in a while. We went down to New Mexico to this, I don't know if you'd call it a hotel, resort, somewhere in between. It's a little south of Santa Fe, north of Albuquerque, and we enjoyed it a lot. It was the family, right? Me and Kristen and the two kids, and we also brought one of Lily's friends along, and it was just a great time was had by all. I got more sleep than usual. And the weather was amazing. It was in the 70s every day. None of the snow we had up here. Sorry if I make you a little jealous, but man, it's so rare that I get even a few days off. It was just great. Now, one thing that I do want to tell you about, if you ever drive to Santa Fe, okay, so we made a little discovery. About an hour or so before you get to Santa Fe as you're going south on I-25, there is a town called Las Vegas, New Mexico. And Las Vegas, New Mexico is just, what you might expect, a kind of ordinary town with a slightly older downtown, a classic Main Street, kind of middle America kind of feel about it, and, some Western feel about it as well. Anyway, in the middle of Las Vegas, New Mexico, we discovered, and I don't mean we're the first people to discover because it was full, but we discovered a little restaurant called Charlie's Spick and Span Cafe, which is, by the way, an awesome name because there are some people who like to go to restaurants that are clean. Also, it's just a very memorable name. Charlie's Spick and Span. Pretty good, right, Shannon? So you go into this place, and first of all, it is pretty big, and it was just full, packed with people eating late breakfast and lunch, whatever, Tex-Mex or New Mexico kind of food, whatever it was. But in the display case toward the front, they had the most ridiculous pastries you've ever seen in your life. And we got the kids some donuts. We got my daughter a chocolate eclair, and I'm going to have to put a picture up on the blog in a little bit. Shannon, this chocolate eclair was like if you were to get a big hoagie sandwich somewhere, it was about that size. I would say it was 10 inches long, and it was the cross-section was a circle, not an oval like most eclairs are, and it was a circle, and the diameter was at least 3 inches and about 10 inches long, covered with chocolate, filled with cream, best-looking thing ever. I had one bite of it, and my daughter ate the rest. But I got a cinnamon roll. And now, producer Shannon has this up on Facebook Live and YouTube Live right now. And if you want to go to either one, like if you go to YouTube and type in Ross Kaminsky, you'll see me with this look at this thing, Shannon. This is ridiculous. It is almost the size of my head, this cinnamon roll. And I'm about to just try it for the first time. I saved it so I could try it on the air. Oh, man, that's good. So if you ever are driving south on I-25 in a Santa Fe kind of direction, check out Charlie's Spick and Span Cafe. They make their own tortillas right there. We watched them make them, and were really delicious. We bought some. And get a big-as-your-head cinnamon roll. Now, I got to wipe my fingers here. Luckily, Shannon gave me some paper towels before this segment so I can wipe my fingers. So anyway, that was definitely a highlight. Charlie's Spick and Span. I recommend that everybody check it out. No, they did not pay me to mention this to you. I just think it's awesome. Okay, we got a lot to do today. We got a lot of serious stuff to talk about and some not so serious stuff to talk about. And as long as we're starting off not too serious, I'd actually, since I don't usually remember to do this first thing in the show for our earliest listeners, I'd actually like to give away some movie tickets before we jump into some of the politics and the Jussie Smollett update and all that. Producer Shannon will take your calls, but don't call yet. I need to give you the information, okay? So this is for this Wednesday evening. The movie's at 7 p.m., starts at 6:30 at the Harkins Theater up at Stapleton, what do they call that, Northfield? Stapleton, Northfield area. Right near Bass Pro Shops up there. And the movie is called Best of Enemies. And it's based on a true story, and it centers on the unlikely relationship between an outspoken African-American civil rights activist named Ann Atwater, played by Taraji P. Henson, and a guy named C.P. Ellis, who was a local KKK leader, and he's played by Academy Award winner Sam Rockwell, battling over the desegregation of schools in Durham, North Carolina during the racially charged summer of 1971. Looks like a pretty good movie to me, and free tickets are always good. So, again, this is this Wednesday. You would need to show up around 6:30, and if you do win, remember, you don't go anywhere for physical tickets. You don't come to the station. You don't go to the box office at the movie theater. Instead, when you go in, you just find the VIP check-in line for the screening and just give them your name, and your name will be on a list. And here's what I want to do. I will take the first 3 callers to 303-713-TALK. Actually, Shannon will take the first 3 callers to 303-713-8255. And I will also take the first 3 emailers at ross@khow.com. The email must say tickets, and it must have the name of the person who will pick up the tickets and a cell phone number in the email, okay? And Shannon will need your name, your email address, and your cell phone number as well. So we'll take the first 3 calls and the first 3 emails, 303-713-TALK, 303-713-8255, and email ross@khow.com. If you end up winning and you cannot go to the movies on Wednesday night, would you please do me a favor and email me and let me know, and I will give away some other tickets later today or tomorrow or something like that. Okay, so let's talk a little Jussie Smollett. So the reason I wanted to mention this now is that, one of the reasons anyway, is that when I last spoke with you, last Tuesday, it was shortly after, it was the day that the charges were dropped against Jussie Smollett by Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx in Chicago. And I wanted to make sure that we all understand a couple of things here. So first of all, when we spoke, I said, because this was just a breaking story, I said maybe their case fell apart. Maybe they lost witnesses. Maybe they realized that something was different from what they originally said when they filed the charges. Maybe something happened to the case and they had no choice but to drop or dismiss all charges against actor Jussie Smollett, whose real name, by the way, is Justin Smollett. Now, as we learn more about all this, as we learn more, it appears that that is not what happened, and I'm sure you've heard this in recent days, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. And that is that they say, and the deputy attorney, state's attorney there, said that the case was not falling apart. Here's from Chicago Sun-Times, and they do this sort of Q&A. So prosecutors dropped the charges because their case was falling apart, and the answer is not according to the top prosecutor who handled the case, First Assistant Joe Maggots, M-A-G-A-T-S, much too close to Maggots, M-A-G-G-O-T-S, which sound like what is infesting the justice system there in Chicago. Maggots told the Chicago Sun-Times, quote, "We stand behind the Chicago Police Department investigation done in this case. We stand behind the approval of charges in this case. They did a fantastic job. The fact there was an alternative disposition in this case is not and should not be viewed as some kind of admission that there was something wrong with the case or something wrong with the investigation that the Chicago police did." So as we now seem to have the full public picture, what they argue is that Fox was only going to get community service, and then they said, well, he already did community service, and so why should we even bother going through all of this stuff? Why should we bother going through this entire case if he's only going to get community service and blah, blah, blah? I think it's outrageous. I think what happened was probably corrupt. I can't wait to see a federal investigation into this. Kim Fox is saying she would welcome an outside, non-political investigation into this. But I think the whole thing absolutely stinks. Let me share with you what CBS television in Chicago said that Jussie Smollett did for the community service. That the prosecutor said he was just going to get community service anyway, and he did his community service, so we're going to let him off of 16 felonies. Quoting now from CBS Chicago, quote, "He spent several hours responding to students about the music and film industry and volunteered in the Push Freedom Store." Let me just pause here for a second. Operation Push, Jesse Jackson's shakedown business in Chicago, where they pretend to be about civil rights. And what they do is they go to companies that have not quite complied with everything that Jesse Jackson might want them to when it comes to quote-unquote civil rights, and they shake them down. And they say, you pay us X and we won't sue you. I made this comparison last week to lawyers who will find some client in a wheelchair and then just send them into business after business after business looking for minor violations, any kind of violation they can claim of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and then they tell the business owner, if you pay us $10,000, we won't sue you. And normally the businesses pay because they know that it'll cost them more in attorney's fees to defend it. So this is basically Operation Push's business model. So Jesse Smollett went to Operation Push for his so-called community service. Now, again, let me go back to what CBS Chicago said. He volunteered in the Push Freedom Store, managing sales and encouraging visitors to purchase gear. Nice. Smollett also reviewed and assessed the television studio and social media production of the weekly Push broadcast, live stream, and social media outlets. Here's my favorite. Rainbow Push estimates the actor was there for a total of about 16 hours over 2 days. So that's basically 1 hour per felony. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. If I were accused of 16 felonies and I could go in on a Saturday and then a Monday. That's what he did, by the way. This isn't like stuff he's done a while ago. They were working this out. They're like, how can we claim that he did community service? Oh, yeah, let's send him over to help Jesse Jackson make some more money. And we'll give him an hour for each felony instead of maybe a month in jail for each felony, which would seem a little bit more appropriate. Or even a day in jail for each felony. Anything. And I want to make something really clear. I think that the prosecutor is more likely than not correct that he would not have served time in jail. You know, I don't think it's 90% he wouldn't have. I think there's a chance he would have served time in jail, but that's not the main point. For me, the main point is he would be a convicted felon, which is a serious, serious penalty, regardless of anything else, regardless of time in jail, regardless of financial penalty, regardless of any of it, he'd be a convicted felon. He may still be when the feds are done with him because of that fake letter that was sent probably by him to him. And by the way, even if he didn't put it in the mail himself, if he was part of the plan to send the letter, then that's mail fraud, and I'm sure some other things as well. Now, there is a point that I wanted to focus on for a second, that I want you all to know how close, at least a big part of Colorado came to having someone like Kim Foxx. And I am going to pat myself on the back a little bit here. You may recall in 2016, I made a big deal on this show about the Jefferson County district attorney race, in which incumbent district attorney Pete Weir won his election over a challenger named Jake Lilly. Pete Weir's a very good DA, moderate Republican, and I spent a lot of time on this show explaining that this guy, Jake Lilly, who I don't know, was absolutely a wolf in sheep's clothing, being funded by George Soros. George Soros, and if I remember the numbers right, funded the campaigns of a dozen local, not statewide, local DAs in 2016. I pointed that out to you over and over and over again in that election, and Pete Weir won and maintained his seat as the DA of Jefferson County. Meanwhile, around the country, if I remember the numbers correctly, 10 out of the 12 DAs whom George Soros funded won. Pete Weir was one of only 2 who did not lose to a Soros-funded challenger. This woman, Kim Foxx, in Chicago, received $300,000 or $400,000 in campaign contributions from George Soros. In fact, it was reported that Soros contributed more than $1 million to beating Pete Weir right here in Jefferson County, Colorado. Thank goodness George Soros lost here, because the kind of people that George Soros put in place are the kind of people who make the decisions that Kim Foxx made in Chicago. She's very likely to lose her next election, but I would rather see her charged with a crime first. Keep it right here.
This report is